I've got a confession. I hate seagulls. They're loud, they're annoying, they try and steal your chips at the beach. But this seagull won't do any of that. But it might just become Australia's cheapest EV. BYD Seagull hasn't quite been confirmed for Australia, but if it did, it would sit under the Dolphin in BYD's Australian lineup. So of course it would have to be affordable. What are its competitors? Well, at this size, honestly, not many in Australia. You could look at something like a GWM Ora, MG4, they're a bit bigger. Maybe a Fiat 500e, also a little bit bigger. So it would occupy its own kind of niche space in the micro segment. As you can see, kind of tiny proportions, but as you'll see shortly, that doesn't necessarily translate to the interior. First up, I've got to say, I love this exterior design. I'm mad for a tiny little car. It does give Japanese K car vibes for sure. It's got kind of edges and angles as well, but not too many. It's not overdone. It's just kind of nicely done. Those tail lights sit up nice and high, and you've kind of got this cool, rear window treatment to make it look like it's going faster than it actually is. You've got your cladding here because of ruggedness. I don't know who BYD thinks it's fooling, but I kind of love it all. And this tiny, tiny little bonnet is just adorable. You've got just the one windscreen wiper. And if you have a look at these headlights, what do they remind you of? Because if I'm looking at them, I'm thinking Lamborghini, which isn't surprising given Wolfgang Egger, who did design Lamborghinis, designed this tiny, tiny, adorable car. Check out the interior of the BYD Seagull. There is some familiarity with other BYD models, but it's not quite as sophisticated, and that, talks to the positioning of this car. It's an entry-level model in the range. So in terms of controls, you don't have a lot going on the dashboard. This is in Chinese. I'm just going to go ahead and assume it's air conditioning, judging by some of the pictures. In terms of the screen, you've got a 10.1-inch rotatable screen there, and of course the digital instrument cluster is 5 inches. BYD calls this dash design its wing design. I'm assuming that's because this car is named after a bird. But look, I think this is a smashing design for a really kind of entry-level basic EV. It's quirky enough, it's cute enough. I'm obsessed with this pink. The other one we drove had this really vibrant blue. So they really know how to kind of get your attention and have an interesting interior. It's just so nice to see. And again, the seats are really comfortable in this car. There's a huge amount of headroom. This does not feel like a micro car up front. Wait till we get in the back. So again, this straddles the micro small car segment, and dimensionally it is quite small, but as you can see inside, I've got quite a lot of legroom for such a tiny car. Of course, being an EV, no transmission tunnel, flat seats, but that's fine. One thing to note about the seats, this car is a 4-seater only, which I think is completely fine because realistically, who is going to try and get 5 people in a car this size? So I think it's fine. Not as many amenities as in some of the other cars we've driven today, the bigger BYD models, but again, not surprising given this vehicle's positioning. So there's also a European version of this car called the Dolphin Surf, and it's got a slightly longer wheelbase. If this car was to ever come to Australia, and that's still a big if, you could probably imagine that that would be the one to come here, not this tiny Chinese domestic model. It has a 55 kilowatt permanent magnet synchronous motor, and torque is 135 Newton meters. It's front wheel drive, no surprise there, and it's got a single speed automatic. There's 2 battery options, a 30.08 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery and a 38.88 kilowatt hour blade battery. Driving range varies, and on the Chinese CLTC cycle, it's between 305 kilometers and 405 kilometers, but again, that is pretty generous. BYD says it's got a top speed of 130 kilometers an hour, and it'll get from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in a lazy 14.9 seconds. There's a lot of cool cars here at the test track in Shenzhen that BYD are letting us put through their paces, but this is the one I'm excited by the most. The Seagull. Let's see if this Seagull squawks. Oh, no bird chirping so far. Sorry for the bad puns. Ooh. Okay. Ooh, yes. Wow, the way this turns in, this is an absolute hoot. And it's really quick. It's really quick. Tell you what, you wouldn't be doing this in a GWM Ora, or a Fiat 500e for that matter, maybe the Abarth. Yeah, it's real sharp. Woo! Oh, and the bumpy bits. Yeah, not great, but kind of to be expected. It's not going to soak up those bumps. But the ride doesn't feel super firm. Oh my God. This is silly. This is silly. You shouldn't be able to have this much fun in a tiny car like this that's called a Seagull. Come on. This is the least annoying Seagull I've ever experienced. Okay, that might have been the most fun I've had today. So the Seagull is not confirmed for Australia, but it is under consideration. I know it's hard to get something like this across the line because of how much you have to charge for something so small. But I really, really hope BYD takes a chance on this car for Australia if they can price it right, because it is an absolute joy to drive. For more on the BYD Seagull, head to carsguide.com.au.